Heads up! This podcast contains infrequent informal language. Please proceed with due caution.
Hi, Ryan Eddie Hale here. Just a quick editorial note for this episode. When we recorded the chat, we did a slightly different setup, and unfortunately, there was a bit of an issue with the recording. So there's quite a bit of interference on my mic and Sam Swindell's mic in the chat. It's not too noticeable, some places it is, but hopefully that won't detract from the experience. The songs are all A-OK and they're bangers, so stay tuned for those. But don't worry, it's not your speakers, it's not your headphones, it's the recording. I have learnt my lesson, I'm not going to do that setup for the next episodes in the future. So sit back and enjoy episode 7. We've got a great special guest, and all that's left for me to say is, this is Prompt Songs Podcast.
Been a while. Here we are.
And we're off. Episode 7. Hey, we made it so far. I'm joined again by Adam.
Hi.
And Sam.
Hello.
And we're being joined by a special guest today, mutual friend from high school, Dylan Zekin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Have you listened to it much before?
I listened to it when I was invited on.
Oh, very good.
Figure out what was happening.
To more research than some people. No, just to get to know you a little bit. What was it about? Was there a certain album or something that drew you to music and made you want to play the guitar and write songs? Do you come from a musical family?
I don't come from a musical family per se. I think my mum always said that she had some sort of musical inclination, but never played an instrument.
So she listened to the radio?
No, I think she said she took singing lessons when she was younger. Like, she can hold a tune if she's singing along to the radio and stuff like that, but she never did anything about it. And then my dad tried to learn the guitar. So the reason I got given a guitar was because I went to visit him over in Australia, and my stepmother had a keyboard, and I apparently sat at it the whole time and played it.
You do that as a kid, because my grandmother had like a electric organ, and we'd sit on it, and we didn't know how to play it.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, like, because she was trying to learn to play the keyboard.
Yeah.
And she just started, and then in 2 weeks I got better than her.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently I picked it up really quick and could play tunes.
Yeah.
And then randomly for Christmas that year, my dad sent me a guitar.
Hell yeah.
That's a good gift.
He literally referenced that saying, you picked it up, like, I want to see if you can do this. So then Mum got me lessons through the school. Apparently I was taken on because they felt bad because me and Adam actually had the same music teacher to start off with.
This is back in primary?
Back in primary. Yeah. Somehow she squeezed me in. Like, I'll do one extra lesson this day. And I still think about, like, going to those lessons. It was mad. They'd let us leave the school, walk up the road to the church by ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, with our instruments, have a 20-minute lesson and then walk back to the school.
It would have been an easy way to get mugged, eh?
Yeah, they just let us leave the school.
It's, like, literally just a little way away from, like, the worst part of town as well. Like,
yeah, and we used to have to go right down into the monastery.
Yeah, man.
And then eventually they gave her a room at the school so that we didn't have to leave school.
Wow. Music's always been a great, like, school skipper. Because I remember in high school,
yeah.
You could say to any teacher and be like, oh, I got drum lessons now, and they didn't question it. It's like, yeah, off you go. Sweet, free period.
Yeah.
I mean,
I remember students would be like, oh, I've got a drum lesson now, and one of my friends would be like, oh, drum lessons aren't today, and then the teacher would be like, wait a second.
Well, no, that was always why, like, in homeroom, whenever they did the announcement, it'd always be like, oh, there are string and bass lessons today, or there are guitar lessons today. So,
is that why they just
the teachers would know what lessons were on, so the kids couldn't,
like,
just fuck off.
I thought it was
I got a drum lesson, miss. See ya.
I thought it was just advertising for, like, we've only got one student and we've got, like, 6 violins. Might as well have some volunteers.
But in terms of an album, again, it was my dad. I'd been playing guitar for a little bit, and then I went over to visit him, and it was, here we go. At the time, American Idiot came out by Green Day.
Yeah. My first album.
So, because the album had just come out, and my dad said to me, oh, I remember this band. I got their album 10 years ago, which was like the first album that launched them, Dookie. Mm-hmm. So he bought me American Idiot, and I happened to have my Walkman. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Back in the day.
I happened to have my Walkman, and then I just listened to that album, and then that is how I became obsessed with Green Day.
That was the first album that I ever got as well.
That's the album you and I connected over, because that was the big album at the time. Yeah, so...
It wasn't the first album I ever bought. I won't reveal the first album I ever bought.
Oh, come on.
Was it like...
You gotta do it.
Spice Girls.
Westlife's greatest hits.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, I always listened to music and like always like lip synced and sung and stuff like that when I was younger and stuff like that. But then I think American Idiot was the first album where I actually started getting into music. And then I asked my dad to send me a burnt copy of Dookie when I got home. And then I listened to every Green Day album ever made.
While we're on that thought of the first album you ever bought, Sam, do you remember?
Green Day, American Idiot.
Are you asking the first one I ever got or the first one
No, that bought
First
with your
one
money.
that you bought.
that I bought with my money?
Oh, I
Probably,
didn't buy American Idiot. No, I was given it for Christmas.
But that was a big album for you, so I'll count that.
Yeah.
What was your...
I mean, my first one was American Idiot, but the first one I ever bought was probably like Changes Bowie or something like
Oh,
that.
see, that's so good.
Yeah, that's way better.
Mine,
Not my childhood obsession with boy bands.
mine was like, I was ashamed about it, and then I grew to be like, no, it's okay, it's good music, and now I'm ashamed again, because it was Michael Jackson's Ones, which is his number one
Oh, yeah.
songs.
Oh.
So I was a little
Oh,
bit
like
ashamed
the
because
compilation.
he wasn't like cool music at the time, and then I was like, no, it's good
is really
music, it's
cool.
like well produced, and it's like hooky, and now
Now it's gone the other
Michael
way.
Jackson climate, yeah.
Yeah.
So the first album I bought was Queen, A Day at the Races, on the record.
But yeah, and then that Green Day thing just sent me down a rabbit hole of all that type of music. And then eventually I expanded to listening to basically everything.
Well, yeah, high school was great for that.
Yeah.
You like this? How about you listen to everything else? So today, would your influences obviously include Green Day, but what else would you say are big influences on you as a singer and as a songwriter?
Definitely, obviously Green Day. But like, I say I listen to a lot of music. I do primarily listen to punk pop. I'm not going to lie. But I do listen to a lot of other stuff. But a lot of pop punk bands that you'll probably have like never heard of.
Try us.
The Story So Far, Neck Deep. They're less so influences, just more what I listen to. But in terms of like bands like Rise Against, I'm a huge fan of.
I've heard of them.
Rise Against the Machine, right? No.
Rise Against, Green Day, Queens of the Stone Age, quite like them, like the way they approach writing. And then, oddly enough, classical music, because I like to like challenge myself to stick to the rules when I write sometimes. Like I've actually written a nocturne that,
Nice.
that I'm yet to record, but that, yeah,
What's the nocturne called?
nocturne.
What is a nocturne?
I think traditionally it's like a minor key sort of slowish tempo with like a I don't want to say dark, but it's not like a positive. It's like
Yeah.
a slow brooding type of
It's
like
not uplifting, it's
yeah.
quite reflective.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a-
Because, yeah, that's...
I think it's like a modified sonata form,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
like which is most classical music. You take sonata form and you fuck it up. So
But I think with a nocturne, it's just the one movement.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, because Harlem Nocturne's like the only nocturne I've ever heard of. Is it
Nah,
even a nocturne, or is it?
It's probably, they're typically piano based, and Chopin
Oh, okay.
did a lot of them.
Actually, there's a cool song called Nocturne by Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, and it's not ska, but it's not sad, but it is very reflective and quite moody in
Oh,
in
yeah.
a sweet way.
The one that I have been writing for the last like 6 years, it's definitely darker than a normal one would be.
What's the primary instrument?
On my one,
Yeah.
it's on acoustic guitar because I can't play piano that well.
All right, so let's jump into the show. Anyone want to go first? No? Okay, I'll go ahead. My first one is Adam's prompt for me, which was The Who, and it had to have a tempo change at the end of the song, and it had to be about gambling for no reason related to what's going on in my life.
Well, I don't think I specified that it had to be at the end of the song. The tempo,
Tempo change in it, yeah. Well,
I think we just said that because the one last time did have a tempo change at the end of the song.
There's two in this one, I think. I won't talk too much about it at the start, but I would like to thank Adam for giving me The Who, because this was a lot of fun to research, in quotes, because The Who's one of those bands that we all know and respect, but we can name maybe 5 or 6 songs from them.
One.
So, so I started
two.
I started watching documentaries and concerts, and it was a lot of fun. They're a very mislabeled band. 3 of them are very undervalued as guitarists, bassists, and Keith Moon everyone knows is a legendary drummer, but no one's really watched Keith. And watching Keith as a drummer, that dude is insane. So this song is called Queen of Hearts.
Another Friday night, check up my sleeve. The only way I'm going back out is with more when I leave. To the Neon Palace, place of fools and kings. Maybe tonight I'll win back my ex-wife's wedding ring. Oh yeah, oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Scares me every time when I'm walking through the hall. I was red like danger, but I have no care at all. A dominatrix who young will name my enemy. But she's intoxicating, takes me by my feet. Heads or tails that I'll make it out alive. Red and blue will be my face at the end of the night. Underneath the diamonds, pulling out her space. She's the queen of hearts. Robbed me at the bank house. Now I'm a member of the bankrupt club. She's the queen of hearts. She lays me on the table, feeding me promises that belong in children's fables. She cleaned me up real good, now I'm back on the streets again. Life ain't not that sweet, but I don't know I pretend. Heads or tails that I make it out alive. Red and blue will be my face at the end of the night. She's minding me the diamonds, pulling out her space. She's the queen of hearts. Robbed me at the bank house. Now I'm a member of the bankrupt club. She's the queen of hearts.
Cool. Well done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was quite a shock to be given the Who, because that would be like telling me to do a Rush song, because it's like the musicians in that band are some of the best at what they do. Obviously Keith Moon's drumming, don't need to mention that, but John Entwistle on bass is a really underrated but also respected bassist, kind of like John Paul Jones. He's a very specific tone and quite busy playing.
Yeah, I think when I was listening, I was like, oh, you kind of got that bass tone, like that kind of clank on the edge of it. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
And then Pete Townshend's guitar, there's interviews of him where he'll be like, yeah, Keith didn't really play rhythm on the drums, so I kind of had to do it with the guitar. So
right.
That's how I kind of approached the song. And one thing I didn't do, but I found really interesting when I was studying The Who, was there's this great series called Classic Albums, where they go through classic albums, and Roger Daltrey sits at the desk and they listen to Won't Get Fooled Again, and he takes everything out except for the vocals and the drums, because Keith's playing his fills to the vocals rather than playing along with the guitar and bass.
Yeah, right.
And I've never heard any drummer do that and still make it work. It's really, really interesting. I approached it kind of like historically accurate, because Glenn Johns is a famous producer, engineer, and he has a technique on the drums, which is one on the kick, one on the snare, and then a stereo pair in a certain configuration. And so that was easy to set up, so I did that. I didn't have a kick drum stand though, so I got a stack of books, and on the top I put Stephen King's The Stand, which is a really tall book. But during the playing, I was doing the kick a bit too loud, and I put the kick out of line, and it kind of pushed the mic into it. So it's a non-microphone stand picking up a really, really healthy signal of the blanket inside my kick drum.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Man.
Sounded good. I think, I like the riffs in it.
Yeah, so much to
Guitar
like.
riffs.
Just
Like, I think you basically nailed like the Who.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to sing like Roger because he's a strong vocalist, but like that riff off the top of my head, I was kind of going for a certain era of the Who, which is around Substitute, around the turn of the 70s, which was like poppy, but it still was quite hard rock. So yeah, once I had that riff in my head, I was like, okay, that's going to be my Who song.
Yeah. But the riff had a little bit of a Hendrixy kind of vibe to it, too.
A little bit of Hendrixy, a little bit Led Zepp, a little bit early Black Sabbath, even at the beginning. But all of those bands were like...
I love this first section, like how the pieces interlock. There's like certain hits on the offbeats, and it's like, I think you really thought out that section really well. It sounds really cool.
I tried thinking about it for once. I was going to do like some solos and stuff because Pete Townshend's a really good guitarist. But I tried to add to it last night and it just didn't suit. Like the rhythm guitar really worked.
Yeah. I feel like that was full, like you couldn't, like if you added more, it would just sort of be too much, yeah.
I wanted to do more backing vocals as well, but
yeah.
my vocals is not good for layering. I've kind of accepted.
I love that harmony on the hearts really helped that like stand out.
That was the cool thing about the Who is all of them could sing, Keith not so much, but Johnny Entwistle and Pete and Rog together, they blend really well, so I wanted to kind of nod to that.
Cool.
Oh, and one thing I will say from the recording, which I haven't added on my notes, when you make songs, if you're emulating a certain band, it really helps to play them on your instrument. So with Keith, he's just like an animal on the drums, so that's why there's a lot of fills in that one. But this was the first time I recorded my guitar standing up. So I put on the strap and then would do Pete Townshend style, like random runs across the room while I was playing, and it really helps.
Did you windmill?
No, I don't have enough room space for that.
Oh, okay.
But maybe I should have. No, it was too busy playing to do a windmill, but yeah. Fucking should have. Power slid across
like
the room.
rock out, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So who's next?
Thanks for volunteering, Sam.
Which one do we want to do? I'll start with Adam's prompt for me. So,
everyone's going with my prompt first. Hell yeah.
Adam's prompt for me was to do a song about a Heartless Act, and the style was Dire Straits.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
My dad is a massive Dire Straits fan, so I have to apologise to him.
Oh, no.
I was trying to go for like a Money for Nothing kind of vibe, and I tried to mimic his vocal style because he's got a very unique vocal style. He just like sort of talks, and yeah. I tried this the other day and it sounded absolutely ridiculous because I was hamming it up so much. And then I should also say I'm not sick. I just had 2 gigs last night of both singing, so I've done 5 hours of singing last night and then got up this morning and recorded these, so it sort of sounds like I've got a cold.
We get it, you're
but
a shit hot musician, Sam.
I think it actually helped.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think he sounds like he has a cold all the time.
Well, if anyone
and
gets
that's-
Bob Dylan, ruin your voice before you do the...
I think it actually made it work, because before when I tried it didn't, but it's still
Did you do it Mark Knopfler style? Finger style?
I played all the guitar parts fingerstyle too, yeah. Although, yeah, when I've been playing lots of gigs, it tears my fingernail up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, particularly when I'm doing the rock and roll gigs, because I do this technique called wrist stroke, where I like just basically slam my finger into the strings every time. And
You use those little timing picks, eh?
I use tiny jazz.
He's converted me.
Really?
I prefer it, yeah. Not if I'm playing bass.
But the only downside is when it comes to playing fingerstyle, that finger's almost redundant now because there's no nail on it. I had to use my middle fingers, and it
right.
it was hard. So it's a little bit.
See, he's making all these excuses. We wouldn't have noticed anything of it when we listened to it.
Oh, let's just do it.
Inhumane like a forest flame, come to my life, then leave me in pain. Break my heart like it's a Kit Kat. I don't know how to react. Unjust like a storm of dust. All I can see is what's between us. Desperate to clear away this rust before that's all that's left of us. A heartless act, careless person, blind to trust and empty lust. Guess I needed to learn that lesson. Don't give yourself away until you think it's straight. So cruel, make me feel like a fool. Leave me along like I'm in the wrong. What was I thinking being with you? Gotta know my word, gotta be strong. A heartless act, a careless person, blind to trust and empty lust. Guess I needed to learn that lesson. Don't give yourself away until you're thinking straight. A heartless act, careless person, blind to trust and empty lust. I guess I needed to learn that lesson. To give yourself away until you're thinking straight.
Yeah, cool.
You mentioned hamming it up before we played it. You hammed it up the right amount.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think the first time I tried it, I way overshot it. I'll have to show you that at some point.
That can be a
'Cause
bonus
it's
track when we're
terrible.
all these songs.
Yeah. But no, I think just the fact that I've sort of semi-lost my voice. I didn't have to do that much today. I just sort of almost...
So yeah, it's
sing
good we
normally.
didn't give you Ronnie James Dio to do or something like that.
Oh god.
Yeah, I think you nailed the kind of because Dire Straits is like almost Latin-y, right?
Yeah.
And you really nailed
Right.
that. Like, and I thought the bass line was. They always do this thing that's like dun 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 dun. And the bass line they'll be like dun 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 dun. You've kind of got
Right.
that thing going on, which is really
Just
And
playing
the-
1 and 3
yeah.
really heavy.
And the very fiddly Knopfler, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote down licks.
Yeah.
Hot licks. Yeah. Great keys playing. We
cool. Oh yeah,
we
the
don't-
organ.
We don't play piano much or keys. We need to Elton John and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost felt like I was doing a bit of a reggae ska kind of vibe on the...
That's kind of what it
keyboard.
was. The 80s was when they really like fused together a lot of things because the Police were playing a lot of reggae as well at
Yeah,
that time.
true.
Really clean. That's what Dire Straits is to me. It's really clean, pure tones of the instruments with
Oh,
not
yeah.
much effects in them, not much reverb, and a great ending. Like there's certain like endings, cha 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 being one of them, but you made a really unique one, which was really
Oh,
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Just sort of bluesy riff, yeah. Yeah, I didn't plan that in advance. I just sort of played it on the guitar at the end and then just thought, okay,
That's
what I'm
resolved.
doing.
Yeah.
Just
We
have to
should,
play that on every instrument now.
We should transcribe it, and then if we're ever playing a gig and we need an ending, we'll just go yell out "It's the Sam ending."
We can do it with Dylan's Requiem.
It can become the new lick.
Yeah, sorry, the Nocturne, not the Requiem. Requiem is totally different. Still, on a Requiem, that would be quite hilarious. Dylan, you have 3 songs.
I do. All right.
Two of them are related.
Let's do it. Let's do the 80s one, the 80s pop one first, because the
Operation Satanique.
Operation Satanique. Sorry.
I apologise to any French speakers.
Yeah, let's do that one because the 2 other ones are linked in a way.
What was the prompt for it?
Rainbow Warrior.
Right, so yeah, this was an 80s pop song.
This is where we get cancelled.
With a song about the bombing of the famous Greenpeace ship, the Rainbow Warrior. Yeah, thanks for this.
Oh, all good.
Yeah, I don't know why we kept that. We were throwing around ideas, what can we give Dylan? And then someone said it, maybe Richard.
I think it was me.
And
I thought
we're like, wouldn't that be funny? And then we gave you that. And then I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, we couldn't do that with any other terrorist incident. We have to approach this from a very specific angle, like Anchor means.
All I'll say is my thinking was, with the other prompt you gave me as a punk song, I thought you'd given me like a banal sort of thing for that, and then give me a political one for this, instead of giving me the political prompt for the punk song.
Yeah.
We don't think that much about them.
Then I've thought way too much about this.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad thing at all.
To do the bit, any excuses?
I don't have any excuses other than there's a part you'll know it where I intended for there to be another like verse as sort of like a bridge verse. I just couldn't think of anything, and then I shortened it so that's not there.
Okay.
But I left it like a bit of it in there for no apparent reason.
Joyous with some libation. Flagship to protest the test. A leader to protect the rest. A symbol of strength, history of success. A warrior for the suppressed. But in the air, a nasty plot. Orders straight down from the top. They hid and they conspired to protect their nuclear society. Powers of an evil kind control the peace with devil's fire. The ideals of this unkempt herd don't keep a nation so secure. As chaos reigns, a boat blown into disarray, quickly leaking, surely sinking, causing something so unforeseen. First a warning, then a killer blow. Escapees watching the afterglow, terrified and shocked to find one poor soul was left behind. They told their lies, months on months of hiding spies. There's something we have not done, but they could not hide the dead man's tongue. Charges laid, debts are paid, but the act of terror will never fade. A warrior for peace it may have been, is anchored in the deep blue sea.
What year is it?
That was cool.
Man, that's like straight away. It was like so 80s. The intro sounded like vaporwave synth kind of.
It's so
time.
80s it wants its haircut back.
So, my initial plan for this song was to take Anchor Me
Yes.
and turn it into an 80s pop song,
Which it kind of already is.
which it kind of already is, but like make it like synth pop.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you can tell, but the main melody da-na-na-na-na-na is the da-na-na-na-na.
Oh right.
So should I credit Nomenclature on this?
No, I changed the key and changed it. And you can also hear it like ad-libbed as like just in the background during the verses where it leads into like da-na-na-na-na-na.
Call those motifs.
Yeah.
I got like a dark kind of Knight Rider vibe, like.
The when I first came up with it, I struggled with this so hard. Like, I was so set on doing this Ankemy, like, synth pop thing for so long, I could not make it work. And then all of a sudden, like, that first line, Midnight, and the Harbour Maud, and I was like, it's this. It's this sort of like, it's almost like 80s TV theme song type of thing. The first thing I thought was Knight Rider. Turns out it sounds nothing like Knight Rider.
Well,
But, like,
we all said to each other, this sounds like Intercity Pressure by Flight of the Conchords, which in itself is a caricature of an 80s style song.
Well, I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking about that.
I think it was just the phrasing of those first couple of
Yeah.
lyrics, because he sort of just like has that whispery spoken tone and has that same sort of delivery, and I just instantly was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of research. There's a lot more lyrics to this that I wanted to put in because I had to figure out a way to write about this that it wasn't like gonna be offensive. So that's why I specifically didn't mention any nation. Like, I didn't mention the French.
Oh yeah.
I just left it out.
Fair enough.
The Herbs did French Connection. Those runs, like between the sections,
Yeah, they were really cool.
your classical influence really made sense there. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is kind of like a harpsichord run.
Did you play them on like a MIDI keyboard, or do you
It's all
play?
programmed.
Oh, so
Oh,
you
right.
like
I don't have a MIDI keyboard.
All
What
right.
program did you use?
The DAW or
Yeah.
Oh, Logic. I use Logic.
Logic. All right.
Woo, represent.
Yeah.
The drum machine was so on point. What did you use for the drum machine?
Just a Logic one.
Nice.
One of the presets.
Gated reverb, everything was there. Every 80s trip, the claps.
Oh, the claps. Perfect, man.
I was like, that was the first thing when you said 80s pop. I was like, how the fuck am I going to do gated reverb? Like,
80s drums are so unique that
Yeah.
that there are emulators for that specific sound.
I think I spent like a day downloading like a whole bunch of different synth machines, like synth plugins.
You got the right ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you build them or use presets?
I took presets and fucked them up.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, excellent work, man.
So like, and I just it's called Operation Satanique because that was the operation name that the French gave to the bombing. That was the
right.
code name. I did a lot of research for that.
For our international listeners, you'll have no idea what the Rainbow Warrior was. Very briefly, that was a Greenpeace ship moored in, was it Auckland Harbour?
Yeah.
Yeah, got bombed because it was protesting
It was protesting nuclear testing.
nuclear testing in the Pacific, and one person died or two people
One.
died. One person died, and for 20 or 30 years, that was the only incident of terrorism we had.
Yeah, thank God you didn't give me the other one.
Yeah.
Actually,
That
funny
wounds
story.
to
Well, not a funny
refresh.
story.
Yeah.
When that shooting in Christchurch actually happened, so my band Boom Boom Deluxe, we were set to play on 7 Sharp that night, and we went into the studio and we set up everything, sound checked. We're just about to play, and then they said they just rushed in and said we have to clear everything away. We have to breaking news broadcast right now because TVNZ only has one room that they shoot everything in.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were just about to play, and then
so Kiwi.
it was so surreal. Just like we didn't know what the heck was going on. They just said everyone has to get out of here right now.
Yeah, so
crazy.
imagine how the Rainbow Warrior was at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
New Zealand was this clean, green country
Yeah.
with no massive history of violence in 200 years, and then that happened. And you dealt with it very carefully and respectfully.
I wanted to talk. There was a whole section where, like, because the Rainbow Warrior had previous engagements with the French where they had come off bad, and I wanted to talk about how they felt so humiliated by it, but I just couldn't work it in.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So let's move on to Adam's first song.
Cool. So my one was My Chemical Romance, Climate Change.
Yes, I remembered this. I'm actually a big My Chemical Romance fan.
Uh
Did you want this?
I didn't want this prompt. I'm just going to judge Adam harshly.
Fish don't fight like they used to. When the sea dried up and the sky's in flames. You won't believe me when I say we're in cold. We've been driven by money to put in the gold. I'm sorry, son, but we're all profiteers. And it didn't take a prophet to see coming here. Learning
Cool.
And just like Planet A, it ended abruptly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
not
yeah.
without warning.
It was kind of a bit of a joke about how the idea of Planet B is like, oh, we fucked up Planet A, so we go to Planet B.
Plan A,
Right.
Very good.
And then like the joke is that they're all like, oh, Planet B's all fucked up because of climate change. Why was there no warning about this? But it's like the second planet that they've got.
Right.
Now, I was there, I don't know if you can tell, but I was the drummer.
Oh.
When we recorded this, as you can tell, it was very noisy. And my headphones, I don't like to deafen myself when I listen. We didn't realise, because we recorded the guitar first, the rhythm guitar, half the songs are out by a beat. But you couldn't tell either.
Yeah, I think it's the emo kind of guitar tone is really like
It's
just
yeah.
noisy, and it doesn't have a lot of edge to it, so it can be easy to get lost. And
It's
like,
matched at the
washed
beginning
out.
and then during like the first chorus, but halfway through the guitar's maybe a beat behind.
I think I noticed it a little bit with the guitar melody
Yeah.
line.
Oh yeah, because I did the solo to the guitar thing,
Yeah.
and then the solo. But then I was like, it's kind of neater for
Yeah,
the
it's
guitar
like-
solo
It's
to be a
sloppy
bit
in a way that supports the message of the song.
The note doesn't have a huge attack, it's sort of like the note's quite round at the start, so it sort of sounds like an effect rather than...
Yeah, you can imagine them
Yeah,
running
yeah.
around stage just being insane when they do that. And
Yeah.
It really suits the chaotic energy of it.
Dude, My Chem is a hard prompt, man. My Chem is an entity in and of itself. Like, part of My Chem's thing is Gerard's, like, theatrical delivery,
right.
Yeah.
which is, like, I don't think anyone could recreate that. The way he, like, if you watch him, like, back in the old days, it's he's actually very inspired by Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And is, like,
I can see that.
yeah, like, if I don't know if any of you guys have listened to
The guitarist is very Queen inspired. too.
Yeah, and
Like-
so their lead guitarist as well, Ray Toro, is like an insane guitarist, and that's what always drew me to My Chem was like, it's not just like your standard stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Ray's like an actual really good guitarist, and he comes up with really interesting riffs and solos and stuff.
Yeah, and I think like listening to their music, it's really like it's a lot more diverse than you would
Yeah.
think from an outside perspective.
Like you hear the singles, and you're like, oh yeah,
They're just an emo band.
they're an emo
but-
band, but then like specifically the Black Parade album is actually very heavily influenced by Queen.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Black Parade was a concept album, wasn't it? Like it
Kinda.
all
It's-
kind of fit together.
It's like a loose concept of
Yeah.
like a patient who gets diagnosed with cancer and then dies and then goes to hell, and then there's some other songs that don't really relate to it.
I think you did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, thanks.
you captured their energy very good.
Yeah, the chorus had, like, that was the bit that really tied into My Chemical Romance for me. Just like that high pitched, like
Just try and
singing
wail
and just
a
like
little
really
bit, yeah.
waily. Yeah,
I just can't do the kind of growl or scream at all. So I just
yeah.
Hello, Ryan Eddie Hale here. If you're enjoying the show and want to stay updated, please feel free to follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this on. Also, if you would like to know when the next episode goes live, or want to receive relevant updates, plus lyrics and photos from each recording, make sure to follow our social pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit. Furthermore, if you search Prompt Songs Recommendations into Spotify, we've set up playlists for each episode with a list of all the music that we've mentioned or recommended for easy access. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so my second song, another really, really fucking easy one to do, thanks to Sam's partner Tanya. Beach Boys. Yeah. Vocal masters, and I'm very much not. So that's my excuse. I can't fucking sing. I couldn't think of a name for this song, so I called it Jeff. The lyric prompt was, your phone battery doesn't last as long as it used to. So rather than singing literally about that, I sang about someone who is left alone on the beach, because Beach Boys, lamenting over the fact that they should have charged their phone, because then they could be with their loved one.
Tonight my head's My blue heart sinks in sand, and I've no one to blame but myself for letting my phone die, left you in the dark. Tonight I sit alone now. Tonight I can't call you. I can't go around to beg you. 'Cause now that's not okay to do. Forgive me. And I've nowhere to run but here. How could I let it run dry? Oh no, my battery to charge up my phone in the morning. My battery is failing. Stay awake tomorrow alone.
Cool. You really nailed the kind of like the Beach Boys back and forth, where like the backing singers say something and it interlocks
I
with
was
like
wondering if you were going to notice that.
Yeah.
That's something that I think you introduced to me when we wrote a song for our band Sugar Breaks. There's a song of Sam's called "Where Did You Go," and there was a line that ended with the words "nowhere," and he didn't know what to do after that. So you were like, "Well, just make "where" part of "Where Did You Go."
right.
And then later on, I started noticing it. Like the best example being "Space Oddity" by David Bowie. Can you hear me, Major Tom? Can you hear? Am I sitting in my tin can?
Right.
So yeah. There's three periods of the Beach Boys to me, three song styles rather. There's the classic surf rock, like Surfin' USA, Fun, those ones. Then there's the psychedelic side, Wouldn't It Be Nice and Good Vibrations. And then there's a third one that not many people know about, which is their vocal ballads. There's two songs, one called In My Room and the other one called Little Surfer Girl, where they just basically do that, two guitars and a bass, maybe a little bit of drums, but all five of them just sit down together and sing. And that's what I wanted to do for this one, because that's my favourite part of the Beach Boys.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was sitting there thinking, where's Good Vibrations?
I was going to add a little like post-credit scene, if you will, where the song would pick up into the surf rock, and it was just going to be Mike Love doing his like fun. Well, I took her to the street, and it was going to be he wakes up the next morning to no notifications on his fully charged phone, so he calls her and she's blocked him, and that was it. But I was like, no, the song's quite nice. I'm quite proud of it. I don't want to like put it out on a bad note like that. No jokes in my two songs today.
Oh yeah, I liked it. I think you got a nice sound, and the vocal blend was really nice.
Yeah, and it's probably the first time playing my guitar clean, which I haven't done
Oh, right.
ever.
Really?
So yeah, just through an amp sim, so I might have turned up the gain on that, but literally just plugged in no pedals, nothing, and just a nice spring reverb.
It was a nice tone.
I wanted to do a nice little bass, like complicated bass line, but the song's not the right mood for that, because Brian Wilson's a fantastic bass guitarist.
And they had Carol Kay on a lot
And
of
Carol
their
Kay
stuff.
from the Wrecking Crew
yeah.
take over for Good Vibrations and stuff, but yeah, the song didn't really require it. So if you like that sound, listen to a lot of the Beach Boys 60s hits, see how they developed, and if you see live footage with Brian, you can see how understated of a bassist he is. He's pretty much like McCartney, but just with a thumb.
With a thumb.
Sam.
Next song. Right, so my next prompt is from Ryan, and
That's me.
it wasn't a specific genre prompt. It was just it had to be using guitar, but I wasn't allowed to use the two middle strings. So
I
it's
remember that.
Just to pull the rug
the
out
two
from under
bass
you.
strings and the two bright strings, two treble strings. And the lyric prompt was a windmill in a storm. So I just started by just writing the lyrics, and they're very like visually metaphors and stuff.
My favourite.
As most lyrics are, I guess. It took me a while to work out what to do musically for this. It sort of turned into like a kind of rootsy, bluesy kind of thing. It's just 2 tracks, just guitar and vocals.
Nice.
And lots of
So you
reverb.
could have performed it live next time.
I'm not good enough to perform this live because like the the guitar part's a little bit intricate, and to sing at the same time would be a
true.
hard thing. Maybe one day, if I practice. But yeah, Windmill in the Storm.
360 degrees and all I see is blue. Strung like a tree and tied like a balloon. Put up a fight and see who's left standing. Armed and shielded like a gladiator. The horizon turns from gold to gray. Ominously dark it comes my way. Demons strike with thunderous whips. Angels' tears fall as heavy drips. The world keeps turning while I stand still. My head keeps spinning as the pressure builds. If I close my eyes and just hold on, can you let me know when the storm is gone? My power draws feels like it's attacking me with razor claws. Tries to tear me from my home with the chill that cuts you to the bone. Frozen bullets from the sky, a battle blazing where I lie. Rivers rage where my feet are planted. The ground once solid feels like it's melted. The world keeps turning while I stand still. My head keeps spinning as the pressure builds. If I close my eyes and just hold on, can you let me know when the storm is gone?
Something about that tone and taking away those two middle strings, it gave it so much character, and I don't know why, but it was like Nancy Sinatra, Boots Are Made for Walking kind of vibe to it.
Oh, right.
Like really 60s. I really admired that.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess it does. It's kind of interesting because your voice kind of sits in those that middle register, so it sort of works as like a stripped back sort of thing.
I think that's what I would have to do in order to make my voice stand out, is just to not have a like strong bass guitar or guitar part. So yeah, it's called frequency stacking from Brian Eno.
How do you find like composing to that kind of limitation with no two middle strings?
Actually, well, it took me a little while to work out what I wanted to do. Originally, I was going to do it's hard to sort of describe. I was just going to do a drone on the E string and then just play melodies and sing the melodies that I was playing.
Kind of like classical playing.
Yeah,
I was trying to approach it like that, but I was struggling I was kind of improvising it.
It did have that kind of a... Not that it was improvised, it was... But like, when you wrote it, it was like...
Loose.
And this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of... I sort of was taking those kind of similar ideas, but the original one didn't have a groove. It was kind of just like an open, like, droney
You're kind of doing... Yeah.
But this was more... had like a set beat to it.
Yeah, the bass was your rhythm, and then the higher strings were your chords.
Yeah.
Where it was two notes. So would you say that limitation was annoying, or it forced you to think more creatively?
No, it was actually quite cool. I think limitations...
Okay, I'm giving you more difficult ones then.
I think limitations can help you make things that you wouldn't normally have made.
That's how punk existed. I can't play an instrument. 1, 4, 5, there we go. That's how the Ramones worked. That said, no one can play like them because no one can do downstroke 8s for an hour and a half.
Oh shit! Yeah.
No, when you hear my one, whoa.
Right. That's a nice transition. Dylan's next one.
Yeah, so they were mean and then they were nice. They gave me a punk song, and then I'll explain after you've listened to it.
What was your prompt in your...
That was where I was getting to, so I'll explain everything. The prompt was I was to sing about the guitar I'm playing.
Yes.
Not
Specific,
my guitar,
yeah.
the guitar I'm playing, which happens to be...
Your guitar.
So the song just happens to be called My Les Paul.
Oh, yeah.
That's abrupt ending.
Wow, what an ending. Man, cool. Did you play bass? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh man, that was some good bass playing, like dun 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 dun. Like
You played really tight on that. It's tight as a nun's fist.
I'll be honest, that took me half an hour
oh real.
to do the music.
Nice.
I added the tempo change a bit later on. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Basically, I knew what you guys were trying to do. For those who are listening and can't see, when I walked in today, they presented me with my rider, and in that rider is pages and pages upon pages of Fender guitars, because me and Sam had a thing during high school where, I mean, I don't really have anything against Fenders per se, but I always liked Gibsons and Les Pauls, and Sam
that's
had
what Green Day would play.
Well, it wasn't just what that was Green Day. That's your classic rock and roll. There's a Les Paul into a Marshall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Sam had a Telecaster, and most of the guitars at the school were all Squire based things. So I knew what you guys were trying to do was trying to get me to sing a whole bunch of shit about Fenders. Which is why the lyrics at the end...
discovered the trick.
Well, that's why at the end, it's what I'm saying. Like, I knew you were trying to bait me. And I was so close. In that part, the last part where I'm just singing My Les Paul, was going to be fuck Fender.
We'll never get the sponsorship.
And I'm gutted I took it out now. At the end, between the dun, dun, I literally took it out. It's the last thing I did before I sent it to you. I said, fuck Fender. As Ryan mentioned, I sent 3 songs. The third one is the first thing I did. So when I got your prompt, I was sitting at work, and I had my laptop with me, and I wrote out this drum track. And because the punk song is like only a minute and a half long, I thought I'd send this as well, because this was the first thing I did, and then I decided it wasn't punk enough and did the more punk song.
And this one is called Paul Jr.
it's kind of where it ends. 'Cause
Cool.
that's where I got to. So I didn't think that was punk enough. And whilst I was trying to come up with a bridge for that, I came up with the other riff that I used for the punk song.
Oh, right.
All right.
The first time I played that, my forearm was dead.
I bet, yeah.
I had not played that fast in years. But then it actually came back pretty quick.
Oh, right.
And then literally I think I did 4 takes total, 2 left, 2 right.
Oh, right. Yeah, because generally, like playing fast is the chops you need to build up, and build them up. And
Like
then,
an embouchure for trumpet, you got to
Yeah.
keep doing it
Yeah.
to keep it. Yeah.
But no, that's cool. You should sing on that, I reckon.
Yeah,
like-
That was
cool.
those pieces were excellent. That second one even could stay as an instrumental. That was fantastic.
The part of the reason another part of the reason why I switched to the other one is because I just couldn't think of a melody
oh, yeah.
For this one. Oh,
for
yeah.
that one. Well, I just couldn't.
I reckon that sounds really punk as well. There's sort of different eras of punk
yeah.
though. Like
That was kind
I
of
feel like-
operatic. Like that would be the predecessor to the big Jesus of Suburbia on your album. Instrumental
Yeah.
before the big one.
I reckon this one sounded more Green Day-ish, and the
Yes.
other one was more like later.
Yeah.
Like a later, more current punk band, I guess.
Yeah, the hardest part of that was the bass. I decided to leave that bass solo. Like initially, it was all guitar. I decided to leave it solo so you could actually hear me playing it because I think I had to punch in that. When I record, I'm not a huge fan of punching. Everything is a single take.
Yeah.
I don't like comping or anything like that. So
As a
everything's-
producer, thank you.
Yeah.
everything's a single take.
Yeah, I was pissed off with the last song I had. I did the whole song. I sang it. I thought, okay, that's sweet. I sang it, and then I realized my second chorus I missed out one repeat.
Oh, right.
So the whole song was like one line of lyrics too short, so I had to retrack like second half of the song basically.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
A quick tidbit is those vocals were all recorded in the basement of the Grand Millennium car park.
How's the reverb in there?
In your car or
in
the
my
actual
car. In my car.
Oh, in your
yeah.
car.
Because I recommended that to you after Richard did it, and I was like, that actually
Well,
works pretty
so
damn
and
well.
then for the vocals for the first song were recorded in a dressing room in the concert chamber at the town hall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your car's probably a pretty good.
It is actually, yeah, it's dead. If you listen to the vocals on the pop song, there's actually the room is actually bigger than I thought it was going to be. I hadn't been in there in a while. There is a natural reverb, even though I'm holding the mic right here. You can still hear the reverb in the room behind me. Yeah.
That whole downstrokes picking thing is like, because I guess doing jazz is all alternate picking all the time, except for when you're doing like rhythm guitar, which is quite an open, like relaxed wrist kind of thing. But only recently, since I've been doing the rock and roll stuff, I've had to do that like with the pinky. It's sort of the same technique, but just you're moving your pinky across all the time.
Yeah, basically.
But it's still nowhere near that fast. That's hard. That's brutal.
Yeah, consistency I think is the hardest thing that for a guitarist to go from just playing for fun to recording, especially to a click track and stuff like that. Yeah. When I started, there were hundreds of guitar takes, whereas now I can get it pretty good. But I don't care about it sounding sloppy. I don't think I could ever play like you do. It's so pristine in time. And
I
tight.
was surprised. I was listening to it, going, "Fuck, this sounds super sloppy," and then I put it down for a couple of days, and came back, and was like, "Oh, actually, it's not that bad."
Oh, nice.
That often happens when you get out of the headspace of working on it and you come back and you're like, oh, actually, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, although for me with recordings, it's often the opposite actually. I'll like record it, particularly with vocal stuff. If I'm recording vocal harmonies and things, I think, okay, that's it, I'm done, this is fine. And then I'll come back later and think, oh no, that's actually out of tune, or like, it's not good enough, I need to do that again.
No, I'm the exact same with vocals, yeah. Like, I'll listen to it and go, yeah, okay, that sounds good. Come back to it, listen to it, fuck, it's out of tune.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we've mentioned on the show before, but the best time to figure out what's wrong with your track is to sit down with someone else. So frequently I'll get Adam to sit with me and go, listen to this track and tell me what's wrong with it, but I'll have all the stuff that's wrong with it in my head, because it's like, the vocal's too flat, I need to redo that guitar, I need to rebalance that, and Adam will go, you need it, and I'm like, yeah, I got it all. Speaking of Adam.
So speaking of redoing vocal takes, you don't have to if you just auto-tune it.
I don't like auto-tune.
Well, you might not like my
it
song
so-
then.
I like it in the right places.
The lyric prompt was Planned Obsolescence, and the band was YMO, Yellow Magic Orchestra, which is like an early electronic band
Pioneers.
from Japan.
What era did you go for?
Like early, like Firecracker and.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Great. Splendid. So when I was asking what era of Yellow Magic Orchestra, I nearly and stopped myself saying Technopolis because they sort of
They literally spell out Technopolis.
that's the song.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what you did.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about, like, you know how you get a new Apple phone and then after a while it stops working. So you need to get a new phone and then you get the newest version and it's the exact same phone but it's slightly different. So that's what I was doing with my harmony. It's the exact same thing but slightly different.
So how many layers of vocals did you have in the end?
8. And that's why I auto-tuned it, because when I first did it, I was kind of like, some are out of tune, and then it's really affecting the harmony, because there's so many of them.
Just one being out can like make
Yeah.
it all sound better.
Yeah, so I just cranked the auto-tune up, and then I was like, now it's perfect.
When I say I don't like auto-tune, I just don't like it being...
Used in place of bad singing.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
So like,
I mean,
or like, particularly in styles of music where it like that sound, like you couldn't use that in a punk song because it just wouldn't work. Whereas in this, like it fits it because it's meant to be sort of more digitally manipulated.
yeah, and they do kind of like...
Do a lot of vocal manipulation.
Yeah. And I kind of like was trying different stuff, and I was like, I'll auto-tune it. But they don't normally do that. They do more kind of,
Like a vocoder.
vocoder.
Yes,
Yeah,
vocoder.
they do more kind of vocoder
Right.
stuff.
They're all good singers, but none of them are strong singers, so that's why they would manipulate them. All fantastic musicians, though. They all have really interesting solo careers, and then when they work together, they kind of like... They're on the edge of technology of music, and like pretentious to say, but they really think about where music can go with the technology you've got, because the reason why 8-bit music was so popular with Nintendo is because the bass guitarist, Haruomi Hosono, developed it. And was like, this sounds like game music. And he has an album called Game Music from 1976 or 8, which predated Pong, the first game. So they used his sound as the sound that we all love from Pokemon and Super Mario Bros. And all that.
When you're-
Splendid Mario siblings.
Mario siblings. Super Mario Bros. I see. Yeah, it was strange how difficult I found it to spell out a word when I was trying to sing it. Like,
Just
there's
have it
so many
written down in
times I
front of
did
you.
it. Yeah, that's what I had to end up doing. But you'd think that, like, you could just go in and be like, I know how to spell obsolete, and then I'd be like, O-B-O. Yeah, so I literally had 8 letters written on a page, looked at it and went, O-B.
I think because there's such a big space in between each letter as well. Like, usually when you spell something like CAR or whatever, you just sort of...
Yeah, because when they do it in Technopolis, it's Technopolis. Tokyo. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to use my little bit of writing and drag it out to 2 minutes, so I spread it out.
Nice little coda on an album, nice little coda on
Yeah,
this
actually.
episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so for our next prompts, Dylan will give all of us one that we will do individually, but it's the same prompt, and then we'll also do 2 from the eggs, if you're new to the show. I have 2 metal containers filled with suggestions that the 3 of us and our friends and listeners have sent in, so if you've got any ideas for prompts, whether it's a musical direction or a lyric prompt, send it in to the social media page or promptsongspodcast@gmail.com. Do you have your prompt, or do you want to think about it?
Well, I had several ideas.
Do you want to double check it with us?
My first thought was you're all doing a fast punk song.
That's actually fine because we can do like
We
a
haven't
punk
done it
episode.
before.
Yeah.
So that was my first thought. Then I had I don't know if it's a better thought, but I kind of like wanted you to write an Ed Sheeran type song that I would like.
Oh, right.
You're asking the impossible, man.
I'll put it. I don't hate Ed Sheeran.
So when you say Ed Sheeran, do you mean like his vocal mannerisms, or do you mean like playing
The
around on
arrangement.
an acoustic guitar and vocals?
Well, what I mean is he's done that, and he's got his collabs with like Bieber and stuff like that, and he's got such a wide range of songs that he could do.
I can't fault his talent. I can fault the radios for overplaying his songs.
Yes. He's got such a wide range of like styles that you could, because you said make it individualized.
Yeah, I wanted a versatile prompt.
But something that you could all do, but also it has a very specific thing. Like Ed Sheeran has his tendencies and has his, even in his slightly different stuff.
Talking about taking girls home and stuff, right? So it's an Ed Sheeran punk song. Got it.
And now I don't know which one to go with.
I'd say Ed Sheeran, because punk
I think
songs
so.
would sound very similar compared to...
Yeah, because you guys would all end up just writing like a 4-chord song that's pretty fast.
Definitely I do.
You know you're talking to me.
So yeah, I think I'll go with that. So it's like
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, but it would be...
He's got a lot of B chords in his songs, and I'm not that good at barring.
He uses capos
He
on
uses
pretty
capos
much
a lot,
every
yeah.
song.
Oh, I see.
That's how he does
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And what for the lyric prompt?
Well, since I've given you an Ed Sheeran type song, I know none of you are particularly big drinkers. Your topic is alcoholism.
Okay.
Okay.
So I go from gambling to alcohol. We'll draw our individual ones now.
I'm hoping to get one that's not mine, because all the ones that
Yeah.
I've drawn have been mine so far. Okay, so my music prompt is one from Ryan,
Oh,
The Kinks. Is that like Lola?
Lola, All Day and All of the Night,
yeah.
and there's one that's escaped, Waterloo Sunset.
And the lyric prompt is from Sam, Running Away.
Okay.
The Kinks Running Away.
Cool.
Sam?
Okay, my music prompt.
I'm jealous. I love the Kinks. I'm getting into them as well as the Who.
Genre from Ryan again.
Yo.
Industrial.
Oh,
Yo!
that could be
Lucky.
That could be
Slam
so
some car
varied
doors.
though.
Exactly.
Ah,
Basically, don't use instruments. Anything but instruments.
And I've got my own lyric prompt. Lying on your back floating down a river.
Very industrial. Good luck! I've got one from Adam's mum.
Oh,
Big Country, which is apparently a band.
oh yeah.
Thanks, Mum.
I think it's a 80s kind of. I have a feeling it sounds kind of like Gary Newman. Or
And
like,
I have a lyric prompt from Sam.
has anyone ever made that joke about you in your life? Like, oh wow.
It works. Bittersweet Summer. About the 80s. That's good. Mine matches, unlike some other people's.
So we're all writing to Sam lyric prompts. Then.
Yeah. Interesting.
Including me, which is quite weird.
Sweet. Recommendations. There's a band I love from New Zealand called Split Ends, and they have a very unique sound, especially in the middle of their career. So the album I'm going to recommend isn't on any of the main streaming services that I'm aware of, but it should be on YouTube. It's called the Rootin' Tootin' Lootin' Tapes, and this is the period just before they got famous, and they'd just kicked out one of their main songwriters for his mental state. They'd lost half the band. Neil Finn had joined, Tim's brother, and they had this year in England, 1978, where they had no gigs, no one wanted them to play, no one wanted to record them, so they booked out a house in Luton, and the 6 of them just wrote material, and then recorded about 25 songs, and this is the surviving tapes that the keyboard player Eddie Rayner's mixed, and this is Split Ends sounding their most Split Ends. It's
All
like
right.
the most unique pop rock you'll ever hear. And I use that phrase a lot, you'll ever hear. The sessions were so cramped, like Tim was singing his vocals sitting underneath the keyboard and getting like elbowed in the head by Eddie, and Noel had his percussion kit set up in the toilet. But it sounds like a normal record. Like, it's so well produced and mixed. And the songs are so varied. You got ballads, you got like fast rock, you got everything, and it's just so unique. It's a shame that it took 30 years to come out, because it's such a unique sounding record. And if someone was to ask me what does Split Ends sound like, I wouldn't say, oh, I See Red or I Got You. I'd go Rootin' Tootin' Lootin' Tapes. Just listen to those 15 songs. And if anyone's got the 2-disc special edition, Eddie, if you're listening, can I have a free one? It's out of print, and it's got a whole nother disc of demos from that year that I'd really like a copy of. I'm willing to pay.
Man, you talk about using your clout on the podcast to get connections.
Okay, I've got Jamie by Brittany Howard.
Oh, her first solo album, right?
Yeah, came out about 2 years ago, and it's very cool. I like it a lot.
She's a fantastic musician.
Yeah, she's very eclectic with this album. She's got some like more chill bluesy ones, some acoustic ones, and some of them are really experimental. And it's got Nate Smith playing drums, so the whole album's just got insanely good drums. I think the reason why she made this a solo album is because I think the songs were too personal. They're very heavy content matter, but yeah, it just shows her full range, and it's great.
Dylan?
So it's a band that I think I've mentioned to Adam before. It's a band called the Menzingers.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And the album is called After the Party.
And what about it? It's
It's just the Menzingers, they're kind of pop punk, but they're a bit more introspective and they're a bit older. They're not quite They don't look like your stereotypical punk pop band from America with the, you know, the hair and the covered in tattoos and stuff like that. They're a bit older.
The Mike Wozniak mohawk.
The Mike Wozniak mohawk.
That's a Taskmaster reference for any fans.
Yeah, that album, it's a very good album in and of itself, but they're also phenomenal lyricists for the genre and in general, just phenomenal lyricists. And it's punk pop that's palatable. It's not heavy and it's not like overproduced type stuff. It's very organic, very natural.
Cool.
It's very good.
I'm going to recommend the same album I did last time because it came out between then and now.
True.
But yeah, if you look up Dave Aerosmith's Rock and Roll Circus, that was the Lockdown album that one of the bands that I'm in made. And I sing on a couple tracks, so if you forget, you can just go to Spotify and type in my name, Adam Ruddell, and then I should come up. But yeah.
You sent me one of those songs a year ago when it was recorded, and at the start I did not recognise your voice.
Oh, real?
Yeah. He's that good.
Yeah, I think actually, Ryan, you showed me, and I thought, wow, that sounds so cool.
Without permission.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, all good.
No, really cool. If you love Guns N' Roses, like
Yeah,
late 80s.
it's kind of more Kiwi rock or like 80s Kiwi rock, I think, is what the guy is going for, Dave Aerosmith.
Cool. How are we gonna end this one?
Bye.
Wait. Let's listen to Sam's outro and then we'll all sing it. You know, it has a little do-do-do-do-do-do-do. How does it go?
That's it for this episode. To access lyrics and photos from the recording of this show, or just to stay updated with releases and relevant news, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Reddit. Your support and feedback is much appreciated, so leave us a comment on what you enjoyed, or send in a prompt of your own that you would like one or all of us to tackle. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time. Prompt Songs Podcast is the independent work of Ryan Eddie Hale, Adam Riddell, and Sam Swindells. Additional material was supplied by Dylan Zekin. All music featured is original, and all relevant rights belong to those parties.